Thank you very much, Elton. And to all other Toastmasters and members of the executive of Toastmasters, thank you very much for joining us here today. I want to take you back to June 30th, 2018. I was actually on a cruise ship docked just off a place called Seaward in Alaska, just a little bit to the east of Anchorage, Alaska. And I was sitting on the cruise ship and I had my cell phone sitting right beside me because I was waiting for a call from Toastmasters International to tell us that the Oshawa Lunchtime Talkers Toastmasters Club had been reinstated before July 1st and lost our status completely and would have had to go back and reincorporate as a new club. How did we get there? Well, it was a perfect storm of things that happened. I was the treasurer of the club and I had to take 5 months off because of business that was responsible for that I was responsible for. So I wasn't doing much with the club for 5 months. Our president and our vice president of education were missing in action. And unbeknownst to me and a few other people on the executive, we did not have 8 people signed up in April 1st of 2018. We only had 6 people signed up. That meant that our club was in crisis. We were now in suspension at the moment. Thank you to Wendy and Janice for giving me some information that I didn't know existed at the national level. And starting in about April, I got on the phone and started making phone calls and started sending emails. And there were multiple discussions with Wendy, Janice, and a few other people trying to help us along on this path. Do we close the club? Do we have to recharter the club? There was all sorts of things. It was $350 US to reincorporate a club that was down to 6 members. Luckily, we got 8 people to pay, plus a few people to backdate their checks to Toastmasters. And on June 30th, sitting on the deck of a cruise ship in Seaward, Alaska, I got a phone call from somebody down at Toastmasters International I'd been dealing with for about 3 weeks saying, Bob, the paperwork's in, the paperwork is cleared, the club is back up and running. I still remember sending an email to Wendy and Janice and going, I can go enjoy my vacation now, because it was a panic. It was a real big thing that we were about to lose a club that had been around since 1985. We were over 34 years in business that time. And it was just simple little things that let us slide. I swore that day that I would never step back and allow our club to go like that again. And so, as Wendy can probably attest, and a few other people on this call, even when I haven't had an executive role, I'm still sitting on the shoulder of the executive going, did we get everything done in time? Do we have everybody on? The great thing is we took that club from 6 people to 8 people. And then the next year we took it from 8 people to 22 people. Now I know, and I've heard this said by Wendy and many other people, Chris Nelson, I know Jennifer was mentioning this not too long ago, that a lot of clubs have been losing members because of Zoom fatigue or not being able to go out and actually see each other at meetings. And I feel the same way myself. I spend day after day after day on Zoom meetings with clients, then I've got to do Zoom meetings. So what do we do to get more people to come? And our club has been working hard at that because, let's face it, we did the same thing again. We went from 18 members, dropped down to 7 members just before this last. Yeah, I see. Yeah, Wendy, it happened again. Bob kicked into play, started twisting some arms, and we got ourselves back up to 10 members. So we had 3 that weren't going to renew. And after a little bit of chatting, a few tears, I think it was their tears, not mine, but we got ourselves back up again. So I want to talk to you tonight about some of the things that you can do. And I'm going to pop into my share screen now to actually help get your club. Now, this originally was called 6 steps to get your, let me just get this to our first slide here, to convert guests to members. without being pushy. And I think now what we have to do is we have to call it the COVID edition, virtual meeting edition. So I'm going to kind of go through some of the things that we've been doing in the past year to get people back into the club and to start to grow that membership, because we have been pretty lucky in getting people to come out regularly as guests. Now the problem is, do we get them to convert from guests to members? And nobody wants to be pushy, so let's make this happen. So we're going to talk about a number of things. We're going to talk about a 6-step plan. It used to be a 5-step plan. I forgot to change the slide. 4 questions that you must ask. And this is going to be a really big piece of what we're talking about. It's the questions that you ask people coming to your club. Understanding their why, how to position the application, how to put the value to the membership costs, how to follow up, and then what you do so you don't have to be pushy. And I'm not going to just have a Q&A at the end. I'm going to actually pause throughout this, because we usually do this as a live workshop where we are stopping and talking to everybody all the way along. So we're going to do that. But this is one of the scary things that was a stat that I found from Toastmasters International. They found that 60% of prospective members did not attend a club meeting. And when asked why, they said the club didn't contact them. Can you believe that? Somebody says, I'm interested in Toastmasters, and it just goes into that vapor out there. Nothing ever happens. And I can tell you that Jennifer McGee and I have worked back and forth on this. When Jennifer was one of the senior executives at the City of Oshawa Club, we were across the way. She was a closed club for city employees only, and we were right next door with an open club. If somebody came to the City of Oshawa, was interested, and she couldn't help them, Jennifer was always producing a list of, well, here's some lunchtime clubs, and here's some evening clubs in the Oshawa area, and all the clubs would know about it, and then we could all pounce on those people and say, do you want a lunchtime club? Come to ours. Do you want a Monday night club, Tuesday night club, Wednesday night club, whatever. So we really worked as a group within Area 44 to make sure that if somebody was looking, they were never left on the sidelines without a club contacting them. If anything, they probably went, oh my God, I cannot believe how many clubs came to us. So how do we do this? Well, number one is we've got to have a plan. And this was probably the biggest failure of our club for a lot of years when I wasn't paying attention to it. People came in, they said, I want to visit your meeting, whether it was virtually or live. And all we ever did is said, welcome, tell us a little bit about yourself. And we turned it into a welcoming to the meeting. We'd tell them a little bit about the meeting, how it was going to progress, ask them if they'd like to take part in table topics. And at the end of the meeting, we'd say, what do you think? And of course, we'd give them the package of information so that they could go home with that package of information. Well, the problem was we weren't spending time focusing on why they needed it. So we've got to ask them the right questions. And then we've got to think about that. What's in it for me? If I'm a guest, why am I there? I've already had a reason for appearing. Maybe I had a boss who said, you need to get better at your public speaking. Why don't you join Toastmasters? Maybe it was somebody else they met. Maybe they went online and looked for public speaking clubs. Maybe they've got a friend. But there's a reason why we call it in the industry a trigger event. Something triggered them to take action. And then you've got to invite them to join. And I know a lot of times we hand them that package, but do we really invite them to join? So what our club has been doing is we actually fill out the package for them, and we'll sit down and say, well, if you'd like to join, here's our cost. It's $70 for 6 months plus $30 for your membership. And do you want to pay that by Visa, or would you like to make a bank transfer or bring the cash? Sometimes it's as easy as that. And if they don't join, we need a follow-up plan. So those are the steps we're going to take. So when you're thinking about it, ask at the meeting, we need to spend a little bit of time with them. And one of the biggest things we can do is ask them what made them decide to check out Toastmasters. We want to use their name. The sweetest thing is the sound of our own name. So making sure it's welcome, BB. Nice to meet you. What's bringing you to Toastmasters? BB, can I ask where you're from or what company do you work for? Get that name in a few times because it helps us remember their name and it helps us make them feel comfortable. Let them know they don't have to participate. And I'm not going to read, those of you who know me, I don't like to read slides. I'm more than happy to send you the deck after it's over and you can go back and you can get this information. But a key point is make sure you've got their full contact information. So when somebody comes on one of our virtual meetings, we will actually ask them, first of all, if they haven't found out in advance, if they're just given a link, we ask them to type their email address in the chat so that our VP of membership or whoever's handling that the day of the meeting can save that onto a file. And then we keep a list of everybody who's attended our meetings so that we can push information out to them as they go through it. So I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to open it up to everybody for a minute. Stop the share. What are guests looking for? Why Toastmasters? Anybody want to get in here? Give me some reasons. Why Toastmasters?
Right now,
go ahead,
during
Jennifer.
COVID, something to do.
Meet new people for sure.
Yeah, social. Now it's the social aspect. Sometimes people are just, they need somewhere to spend their time. Even though they're not leaving their house, they can go somewhere else.
Okay, let me just ask a quick question to everybody. I just want you to put thumbs up or thumbs down. You don't have to push the button. You can show me actually on your screen. How many of you are attending meetings, Zoom meetings, daily as part of your business? Thumbs up, or you don't attend any meetings during the day. Okay. All right. So I know a lot of us feel we are Zoom fatigued or we're virtual meeting fatigued, but I think there's a flip side to that. There are a lot of people out there whose jobs do not involve this sort of thing. So I probably have 5 virtual meetings every single day. I do get zoomed out, but looking at just the thumbs up here and thumbs down, some of you, as Jennifer said, it may be a way of meeting people because I'm at home all day long and there's nobody to talk to. Well, maybe the kid and the dog kind of thing, right? Okay. Wendy, you had a comment.
I think finding confidence in yourself. You know, you go for public speaking, but finding the confidence to do that and the confidence to make your goals and achieve them.
Sure. Anybody else? Why do people come to Toastmasters? Trying to catch everybody. Zoom fatigue, followed by socially starved. Exactly. I'm also going to throw one out there. As part of my business training, I do presentation skills training for clients all the time. And the interesting thing is one of the first questions I ask everybody. So I've got a mastermind that happens, it goes on for 10 weeks. And I've got one right now. Week number 1 was last week. And what I ask everybody coming on that very first meeting is I want them to rank themselves from 1, I am a pathetic speaker. I can't talk. I mumble it all up. I forget my words. I don't know what I'm saying. I can't put an ing on the end of the word. All I'm saying are things, you know how it goes, right? To I'm a 10. I am so confident in what I'm doing. I can speak like, you know what, blah, blah, blah. The interesting thing is people who come to these training sessions that their companies have sent them to, about 90% of them rate themselves as an A as a presenter or public speaker. So they're already saying I'm an 8 out of 10. Now, the interesting thing is as soon as they start presenting, in week 3, we ask them that same thing again, and it drops down to about a 5 or a 6. They think they're better than they were. And then once they start to learn a little bit about it, they kind of go, oh, and it actually pulls them down. And then they start to work from there. Right? So a lot of people, that's it. Their boss has told them, somebody they've worked with has told them. There was a lady who came to our meeting about 3 weeks ago, and she said she uses in her presentations all the time, and it makes her sound stupid. Now, it's her boss that said that. You use all the time in your presentations, and it makes you sound stupid. How do you think she felt about that feedback from her boss? I think the boss needs a little bit of feedback training from Toastmasters too. But she decided that if it was that bad, and she actually went back and listened to the recording, and sure enough, she said a sentence, and then she thought about the next sentence, and then she went on to the next part of her presentation, probably threw an in there once in a while, but this is the way she was doing it. Nobody pointed it out to her politely, but her boss finally, very bluntly, you sound stupid because of it. So she's looking to get into Toastmasters so she can get rid of just something as simple as the ums and ahs and become a better presenter. What she found out when she came to our first meeting is she has a boss that has meetings that go on and on and on. And so what she wanted to do was learn how to handle meetings better too. She never even thought about that for Toastmasters. She just thought she was going to learn presentation skills. Any other comments on why people come to Toastmasters? I'm trying to see. Jen, go ahead.
I found a lot of people, because we're online and virtual as well, is even in my other club, English is their second language. And so where they've got those ums and ahs, it is because they are literally looking for words, because it is a language. And so it's one of those things where they can become a little more familiar and get experience talking, so that they not only improve their English skills, but they improve their communication skills in general using this language. So.
Yeah, and that's not only is it the second language, I've got people taking my course, it's their third or fourth language. Most of them are taking this program, speak 3 or 4 different languages. And so English isn't even number 2, it's well down the list. But to your point, they stop and they say, and they wait and they try to think about the English translation before they go forward. So it's a big challenge for them. Grant, I think you had your a wave there. Did I catch you?
Yes, thanks. Many people, I think, attend Toastmaster meetings because of word of mouth. A friend recommends it or the boss recommends it, and they're basically just spoken to and suggested.
Very much so. I mean, we all promote Toastmasters out, I'm hoping. I've also seeing on the chat as I'm looking at that, they were invited to speak at a wedding or give a toast at a wedding. Probably the most important speech I ever gave that I would have screwed up royally if it wouldn't have been for Toastmasters was a eulogy for my best friend's funeral. I mean, that was one where I've been speaking for a long time. I was a broadcaster beforehand, but it was just to get up in front of my best friends, his family, his wife and children, and deliver a eulogy. I mean, that was driving a stake through my heart, but it was what I had learned from Toastmasters that got me to put it together, to be ready to do it, and to know when I got into panic mode, how to just take a breath, take a moment, and then move forward with the conversation. Just going to check quickly here. Joined daughter's wedding. I see a lot of wedding information coming up there. So yeah, there's a lot of different reasons. The big thing is someone looked to join to market a book. And that's one we've seen at our club a number of times. I just wrote a book. Now I have to go out and talk about my book. We've also had a lot of business coaches. I want to go out and do presentations to build my coaching business. Or I'm doing virtual presentations to build my coaching business. I just had one recently, a president of a very large company that was had to do the shareholders annual meeting. And he wanted to get up there and actually not sound like a dead college professor, like he said he always sounded like in the past. And so I said, let's work together. What are we going to do? He had a 45-minute presentation. He came to me with 145 slides. We got it down to 12 slides. Right? So it was a matter of he wanted to focus his presentation, and it went from facts and figures and graphs to an emotional where the company was going to go and how we were going to move forward. So there are a lot of reasons, but the big thing I want to focus on here is it's their reason, not our reason. And that's the big thing we have to remember is they're coming for their own reason, not for our reason. So to Jen's point, they may be looking for friendship. Do I belong at this club? So they need to know you care about them. If you're that person who said, you sound stupid because you say ums and ahs all the time, that's not someone who's caring. So we're looking for a club that's got energy. And I know in the past, I've walked into clubs when I was an area director, and sometimes you walk in there and it's like, oh my God, the energy in this place for 30 minutes leading up, 20 minutes leading up, 15 minutes, it's just sizzling. And then other times you walk into a club and it's like, hello, hi, I'm a guest. Anybody there? So it's really how are you greeting them? and how are you helping them? And you can do that same thing both virtually and as you do it in person. So we open up our Zoom link for our meetings 10 to 15 minutes early, and people who are feeling isolated come to the meeting early and they just chat. And that's what's happening. So there's a lot of that happening. Let them know that them being there is important. We have a community here. I remember the first time I went to the club in the north end of Oshawa and there were 60 members. I was used to going to clubs which were lucky if there were 20 members. The sense of community that they have and the fact that they go out for a beer on a regular basis after meetings. I'm not sure what they're doing right now. I'll have to check in on that. But create a sense of community, because if people are isolated, that's what they're looking for. And I don't know if you're like me, but I'm kind of tired of my friends and relatives all the time. And we do Zoom meetings. Let's meet some new people. Let's talk about some new things. You want to show them the structure. Let them know there's a structure, because if it's wishy-washy, I don't know what's going on here. And then encourage that feedback. Tell them about other people who came to the meeting, or tell about yourself. I went to a meeting for this reason, and this is what I'm getting out of the meeting. So these are all things that people are looking for above and beyond just, what am I going to get if I go to Toastmasters? I'm going to gain confidence. It's a whole set of community and a whole set of learning. So how do we do this? If you haven't read this book, Simon Sinek, called Start With Why, it's a really great book. And it is really important for anybody that has to get teams together, whether it's business teams, not-for-profit, or part of your club. Find out the why of people who are coming to your meetings. So why did they join Toastmasters? And please never assume you know why. Find out their why. Get them to talk about it. Ask that question. So Jen, why did you initially join Toastmasters? I use that as the opening to get me in there. And I want to ask what the big challenge was. So Jen, I'm going to hit the stop the share screen, and I'm going to call you in because your game, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Jen, why did you join Toastmasters?
I have always wanted to be a speaker, actually. And Toastmasters was at my work, and I wanted so badly to join the club, and it didn't fit my schedule. So when there was an opportunity to ask my supervisor to fit it into my schedule, I jumped at it.
And why did you always want to be a speaker?
Well, I was born with something called the gift of gab. It's a McGee trait. Ask anyone who's known my family or my dad. But the difference is, yes, I've always wanted to be a speaker, but I need to learn structure. Just like you were saying, you know, people say, oh, they rate themselves at an 8. I need to know my parameters. I need to know guidelines, the beginning, the middle, the end, the timelines, the constraints, and structure.
Excellent. Okay. Now I want to go to someone, Nigel. I've never met you before. So Nigel, can I get you to come in for a second?
Sounds good.
Why did you join Toastmasters?
I guess mine's more the stereotypical confidence reason. I joined it definitely at a work club. So my club is a corporate club. And for me, I was noticing that when I was stepping in front and presenting in front of clients, I was more nervous, one, because I didn't have the technical background, and two, because I didn't really have that communication skills to fall back on. So just to get up there, get some practice, get more confidence, and play around. Sometimes now, even with all the Zoom meetings, you don't get to try things in front of clients. This was an opportunity to try something new, play around with the meetings and speeches.
So let me back up a second. Before you joined Toastmasters, how did you feel not having the strong presentation skills that Toastmasters helped you develop?
More
How did you
uncertain
feel
when I was presenting, I guess.
How did you feel before Toastmasters?
More nervous when I would get up.
Nervous?
Definitely
Okay.
in front of people, yeah.
Tell me more about that. Nervous, what else?
I would always be anxious, and I think that kind of led me to also appear like I wasn't as confident when I was up there. And it's, even if I knew what I was talking about, just the fact that I was appearing anxious would make people ask more questions and doubt what I was presenting to them.
Okay. So the doubt means they're challenging you on what you're doing in your job too?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So now that you're doing that, how do you feel?
Definitely a lot better, actually. In some cases where I'm not as confident of my answer, but just because I can present it and talk about all the other possibilities, the clients actually have more confidence in what I'm saying, even if I don't have that in the back.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so what did I do there? I asked that first question from Nigel, what brought you to Toastmasters? And then he, because he's a member, he moved forward to how he felt, but I took him back to get him thinking about how he felt beforehand, right? And that is one of the secrets. When you're talking to that guest, you ask them why Toastmasters, but then you ask the flip side too. Where are you now? Right? So let's go back to the lady who, my boss says I sound stupid. How is that for a blow to your ego? So it's a matter of taking that person and really getting them to feel about where am I now? And then how am I going to get there? And that's what Toastmasters is going to help them do, right? So you can do that with just about anybody when you start talking to them. So somebody else that I don't know, put their hand up if I can ask you a question. Looking for that. Okay, Carolyn, go ahead. Carolyn, how long have you been a Carol, how long have you been a Toastmaster?
2 years.
2 years, okay.
And I'm now retired, but I was working at the Ontario government, and it's a corporate club there. They have actually quite a few clubs, but what interested me was with cutbacks, the free French class every week was ending, and I'm trying to become fluent. So I found a French Toastmaster club and joined them to kind of, you know, if you're writing speeches, you have to work on your French.
Okay, so I'm going to go back again. So you weren't able to practice your French. So how did that make you feel in your job when you couldn't practice your French?
It didn't much affect my job, but
Okay.
I was, if somebody French called in, and I wasn't in any official bilingual position or anything, but if someone called in, I had enough French to fluently say, let me find somebody who can serve you better, which they appreciated. But
Okay.
I couldn't really understand what they were talking about. My French wasn't that good.
So it helped you build up your confidence in French, as well as make yourself more confident and more helpful and more willing to work with people who were speaking French, just because you had some more confidence.
It was more than confidence. It was actual practice. I had to say things more in French. All aspects of the language got developed.
So before you started with Toastmasters, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put your French, your conversational French?
About a 3.
Okay. And where would you bring it up to now? I hope bring it up
About
to.
a 5.
Okay. And what can we do to help you get it to a 7 or an 8?
Well, I'm still in the club.
There you go. Right. Right. So this is all, it's really important just to think about that, step back. We know how good Toastmasters is. We know the power of Toastmasters, but the person that's coming into that meeting, again, whether it was live or virtual, they're unsure and they're coming in for their reasons. So by asking the questions about their reasons and then trying to bring their reasons to what we can talk to them about and hook them together. And as Jennifer said, most of the people that take my private business communication course are international business people who are trying to do business in Canada, and they know the biggest piece that they have, a problem they have right now, is they're not fluent enough. So they can take a course with me for 10 weeks, and then I'm pushing them into our Toastmasters club, because where do they get to practice every single week? And that's kind of what we do as our feeder, right? So any quick questions on that? Find their why. Not our why, find their why. Just going to quickly look here, project management, any things on the side. Okay, so I'm going to pop back to where I was. Boom. All right. So this is probably one of my favorite lines. If you ask the right questions and let your guests talk, but not too long, they will tell you everything you need to know to help them decide to join. So it's all about us asking those questions to find out how we get them in the right frame of mind to decide Toastmasters is for them. So there's actually a little acronym that we use. Anybody that's taken any sales training probably knows it, but this works well beyond just sales training. This works anytime you're trying to convince people of an idea that you want them to adapt. So think about it. You can use it with your family. And I get a big laugh out of this because the minute I start doing it with my wife, I can see her checking off Bob's ass SP. Don't use that stuff on me, mister, kind of thing. But we use it all the time in business. We use it all the time in our not-for-profit. We use it at Spark. We use it at Toastmasters. It's really a powerful way of questioning someone. So think about SPIN: situation, problem, implication, and need payoff. So I'll go back and I'll use the example of somebody who is going to take my course on presentation skills for international business people. So what's their current situation? I'm going to ask them, how do you feel now presenting in English? And they're going to tell me that they have problems thinking about the words. They can't put their sentences together. Their structure's all over the place. They're not sure of terminology. So these are current situation questions that they're going to say, yeah, this is a problem. This is a problem. This is a problem. This is a problem. So then I'll ask them, how is that problem impacting them now? Well, they're going to tell me that maybe they can't book appointments with customers. Maybe they're afraid talking to suppliers. Maybe it's difficult for them to hire Canadians to come and work for them because they're not sure about running job interviews. So then I ask them, what happens if they don't take action? So think about that. Somebody comes to Toastmasters. They've told you that they're nervous. They want to gain confidence. It's impacting their business. Their presentation skills aren't strong. They might feel like they're having trouble in meetings. They want to get better at presenting. They want to speak up more in meetings. They figure they're being passed over for promotions because they don't speak up enough and the boss doesn't know who they are. So you ask them, what happens if you don't take action? I remain nervous. I don't get the promotion coming through. And then you ask them, what happens if you reach your objectives? So it's a simple little formula: situation, problem, implication, and then what's the payoff, the need payoff. And you run them through these, and it doesn't take long. You can do it in a couple of minutes, but it gets them thinking about it, because the real power of getting a guest is to get them to amplify in their own mind how big this problem is. And if they're the ones who amplifies, oh my God, this problem is going to hurt me, they will take action faster than if you just say, well, you should join Toastmasters. And here are my reasons, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can tell you you'll gain more confidence. But if you can see it, and if you believe it, and if you want to, then if I tell you we're going to help you get there, that is going to be much, much more powerful. So any questions about SPIN? Situation, problem, implications, and the need payoff. Anybody got any questions about that? Go ahead, Carol.
Just one, because my club is in government, we're having problems with people just not being able to come to meetings. Our meetings are over lunch every couple of weeks. We have people that come as guests and they can't pursue it because suddenly their workload has doubled and they haven't got time to breathe. Do you have anything? I mean, your approach looks brilliant, but do you have anything that could be done about that? I mean, they don't need more pressure from any direction.
And you don't think they can just call it Rob Ford and say, I need an hour off every lunchtime? So I know in a lot of corporate clubs that we hear that quite regularly. And I know that Wendy and I have chatted about this a couple of times. When things got locked down, a lot of the corporate clubs just went, oh, we don't have time for this at all. But I think, again, it comes back to the need payoff. Do you need this or don't you need this? And if you believe you need it, then you're going to make time. And I'm going to give you a prime example. I hate to exercise, but I'm one of these people who's probably, like some of you, put on the COVID 20, not the COVID 19, or maybe even the COVID 30 pounds. So I book into my calendar at 7 o'clock in the morning. my alarm goes off at 6:30 and it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I know I've got to be downstairs in my gym, or right now it's getting nice outside doing my workout. It's important enough to me that I schedule that hour in my day and I push things around. Doesn't mean I'm any less busy. It just means that I've had to make time for it. And so, Carol, to your point, if they don't see it as valuable, then they'll let other things take over. If they do see it as valuable, then they push things out of the way. And again, if I go back to the people taking my 10-week course, I tell them, if you miss 2 meetings, you're out of the course, because we need 10 weeks to get them from A to B, and they need to do that. So they, well, you know, Bob, a client approached me and said, well, then all you do is you say to them, I'm sorry, but my calendar's already booked at that time. Can we do it this time or this time? And at the first week, everyone's freaking out, but the people who took the course, the last course, they actually came back and said, it worked. I prevented that time. I locked it in my calendar. Anybody who said, that's my time, pushed things around it. And yeah, Bruce, exactly. You know, if you say you're going to schedule it, that's the way to make the meeting. And you don't tell them what it is. I'm not going to say, well, you know, I got a Toastmaster meeting at 12 o'clock that I'd like to go to. You just say, I've got a meeting already scheduled at 12 o'clock. Sorry, this is my one. And I don't tell anybody that I can't meet you at 7 o'clock in the morning because I'm going to get on the treadmill or go out. I've got a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning already with a client. Okay. Would you like to book at 9? Or would you like to book at this time or this time? So it comes down to that importance. If you had a heart attack and the doctor said to you, you must exercise every single day and you must eat properly, we know that 97% of the population will do that for 30 to 60 days. 2/3 of the population will do it for 3 months. And a year later, less than 5% of the population who had a heart attack are still doing what the doctor said. So, you know, if someone's going to die of coronary heart disease and they won't keep up the training that doctors told, how hard is it going to be for someone who won't go to a Toastmasters meeting? I think it's very difficult. Other questions on the spin: situation, problem, implication, and need payoff. So think about it from your own perspective for a minute. What's the situation before you came to Toastmasters? What's the problem that you identified that brought you to Toastmasters? And what were the implications if you didn't fix that problem? And what were the implications, or what's the payoff if you did fix that problem? Right? And you can do this. Think about it just, you know, even with friends talking about things. Where do you want to go? I don't know. What do you want to do? Well, let's sit down and kind of work it through. Make sense? Questions? What if they want to find a way? If they want to, yeah, if they want to find a way, they'll find a way to make the meeting. Exactly. Good. Okay. No questions. I'm going to zip back. Excuse me. All right. So the current situation questions, they're the simple. The how, what, why, when, where. What made you decide to come to our meeting? What are you looking to accomplish? What do you do now? Where are you from? How can we help? Simple questions to get them talking, because that's it. If they're just going to stand there like, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody, we ask people questions to get them to talk. And we don't dive too deep at the start. We get them to answer a few simple questions. And then once we start to build up a little bit of rapport, that's when they're going to start to open up to us. So what's happening now and how is it impacting them? So what made you decide to visit Toastmasters? My boss said I sounded stupid because I said all the time through a presentation at work. How does that make you feel about it? What's holding you back? And then, as I said, on the scale of 1 to 10, what level do you choose? And then ask them, why did they choose that number? If Carol said a 3, why did you say a 3? If she said it's a 10, why is it a 10? If you're a 10 at Toastmasters, I hope you're doing really well. So it's a matter of taking the time to jump from that problem, not to try to sell them on joining, but to take the steps. And everyone kind of misses that, asking implication, asking for the payoff, asking what they want to get out of it, right? So the implication questions come down to things like, so what happens if you don't change? What happens if you don't join Toastmasters? Well, next year I'll be in the exact same position. My book will have been written and I'll be afraid to go out and speak to people about my book. Or I'll start going out and speaking about my book to people and I'll be all over the place. It will be incoherent. It won't be a good presentation. So can they afford to stay on that path? And then what's their definition of success? So we're asking those questions to move them forward. And I always say, don't accept the first answer. People always give us a quick first answer. They usually give us what we want to hear. So take some time when they say, so what happens if you don't make that change? Well, I guess not much. I just keep on doing the same thing. Well, ask them, okay, so no, really, what do you think is going to change for you or not change for you? And once you start to get them to really dig into it, that's when they'll start to really think about it and buy into it. So my term is, I like to call it that pulling at the loose thread. Right? Are they thinking about it? And then you're pulling by asking them more questions to really get them to dump the frustration. Oh my God, I'm stuck here. I need to move on. And one of the best places you can see this happen is sometimes when you want to join something like Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig, or even the fitness clubs, the really good salespeople for those organizations, they grab that loose thread and they pull and they pull. And so you're feeling overweight. How does that make you feel? Well, I'm lethargic. Okay. And what does lethargic mean to you? Well, I can't walk up a flight of stairs without breaking into a sweat and my heart is racing. Does that worry you? Well, of course it worries me. They really amplify by pulling at that loose thread to the point where the person's like, what am I going to do? Well, you're going to join Jenny Craig. What? You're going to join Weight Watchers. What? You're going to join Toastmasters. Pull that loose thread until they tell you why they need to do it. And I'm always saying, get them to talk about all the reasons that are standing in the way of doing it. Well, I can't attend meetings. Why not? Well, I've got so many meetings happening. Do you have a meeting every Tuesday at 12 o'clock? No. How often? Well, once every couple of months. So what if you went back to people the next time they scheduled a meeting at 12 o'clock on Tuesday and said, you know what? I'm already booked. Could we do 1 o'clock on Tuesday, or could we do 12 o'clock on Wednesday? Push it out of the way. Take control. The other one is what we call establishing a lost value. So again, if somebody's coming to a business club, could this help you get a promotion? All right. If you got a promotion, how much money could that mean in terms of a bump in your salary? Or if you don't join Toastmasters and you don't start speaking up, and if you don't become recognized, and if you don't become a stronger presenter, does that mean you stick in your same job? And maybe you never get a promotion. What's that mean to you in terms of money? So there's ways to do that. And then the final on the P, the needs payoff. What is it that you're trying to solve here? And what happens if you reach those objectives? All right. So how do we do that? We do it by telling success stories. Anybody got a short success story from Toastmasters? What it did to help them move forward? Anybody willing to share? Put your hand up. Give me a flag. Nobody? My gosh. How do you get this many Toastmasters on a conversation? Nobody's talking. Elton, come on, give me a success story.
Okay, when I joined, reason I joined Toastmasters is because I became president of a not-for-profit, and I was running out of ideas. I had to speak every Sunday to start the meeting off. Well, I was just running out of ideas, and I happened to run into a lady who was a member of the organization, and she was the one that said, oh, why don't you come with me? She never told me it was Toastmasters. I went, I joined, and as soon as I joined, I told them the reason why. They pounced. They were giving me ideas. They were telling me how to present. It was great. I mean, within 2 months, I had more confidence then than I ever had. So joining Toastmasters was the reason that allowed me to become very successful at being a president at this not-for-profit. If it wasn't for Toastmasters, I would have petered out and died.
Yeah, and we should all have a story in our back pocket that when somebody comes to that meeting thinking, how's Toastmasters going to help me? You ask the questions to get them interested, and then you pull out of your back pocket, whether it's your own story or somebody else's story, and you use that to help them go, oh my gosh, this is where I am, and this is where I want to go. And one of my favorites is a really quick one. We had a young lady who came to our Lunchtime Talkers Club, and she had been hired by a bank as a teller. She went into her boss after a year and she sat down with her boss and she said, I want to move up into management. And her boss said, oh, honey, and I quote her directly, tellers stay as tellers. You don't get to move into management. Well, she wanted to drive a stake through that boss's heart. Smartly enough, about 2 weeks later, one of the area managers came in and she liked this area manager, and she walked up to her and she said, I'd like to progress in the bank, but I don't think I can because I'm a teller. And the woman said to her, I think you can. One of the biggest things holding you back is you don't like to speak up in meetings. I'd suggest you join Toastmasters. And she came to our club. The first week, she wouldn't do table topics. The second week, she wouldn't do table topics. The third week, I finally twisted her arm, said, nobody's going to boo you. Nobody's going to pick on you. Just tell a little story. And she did. And she then joined the club. She went on to become her competent communicator. But after her third presentation, she had to do a presentation for the bank. And she did on a new process that they were introducing. And one of the senior directors was there and liked it so much, they said to her, I'd like you to do this presentation for the area. She did the presentation for the area. 2 area directors were there. And when she was done, they asked her to speak at their national convention in Montreal in front of 2,000 bank employees. She came to me and she said, Bob, I am scared out of my wits. We worked with her as a Toastmasters club to help her with the presentation. She delivered it to 2,000 members of the National Bank executive and staff. When she was finished, a gentleman came up to her and said, I have an opening in the training department at the bank. How would you like to be a trainer across the country? 6 years later, she is now the area director in charge of training for all of Canada for this national bank. Her manager said, sorry, and put her down. And an area director or an area manager said, no, learn to present. And this is what'll do it. And we tell this story all the time. And Kristen still drops in to see us on a regular basis at our club because she is so thankful for those first 2 years of training she got at Toastmasters that set her on a trajectory way past being a teller for the rest of her life. So find the story. And if you can relate it, so if someone comes in because they're publishing a book, think about an author you know and what they did. If they're trying to get ahead in their job, think about that. If they're trying to learn French to become more conversational, remember Carol's story. Find the story because it'll help you. And let's face it, numbers are numbing, statistics are stifling. People remember stories. And the story will impact them. So when they go away, they'll be like, oh man, I don't know if I have the time, but really I want to get ahead in my job. And I heard that story about Kristen, gee, maybe I should just jump in and do it. Right? Questions so far? I'm just going to check the chat. That's why I'm looking over there. If anybody, questions, comments, you with me? Still there? Got Game of Thrones playing on the other computer, watching Jeopardy off on the side, something like that happening. Jennifer, go ahead.
One thing I did want to mention too is we often forget about the leadership opportunity. Well, we don't forget about it, but one of the things that we should also be mentioning to people is the leadership opportunity and the leadership growth that is available. Well, for example, you are the reason I became an area director because it was one of those things where you and I had done a lot of things and you were exposing me to different areas outside of the club level. And then I was like, oh, one day I'd like to be an area director. And the next thing I got an email saying, your name was put forward for an area director. I was like, well, maybe now is the time. But the interesting thing is that when I look at the last couple of years, I spent a lot of time working on leadership growth. And that wasn't the reason I came in, but it's what I found from being here. And I think a lot of people need to know that opportunity exists as well, because that's something that you see is there and maybe people don't see it in themselves until someone else draws it out. But there's so much growth and so much opportunity within the organization, within the area and outside of your club walls, that there's so much more to it than just speaking.
And how did I get involved? Down in I've got to push the right direction. Wendy,
Right?
Wendy Williamson down in that. It's the same thing. I got involved in the area level, and next thing you know, Wendy's going, well, Bob, would you mind coming over? But that's what it's all about.
Mhm.
And Wendy, I want to bring you in for a second, because isn't that one of the things that we teach in Toastmasters is you find your replacement, you look for your team.
Yes.
Right.
Always, always. So everybody on this call, as we're getting towards June, if you are in club leadership, find your replacement. If you're in district leadership and it's appointed role, find your replacement.
Yeah. And believe me, you need to ask people to take those roles. The number of times, and I'm sure all of you have been involved in Toastmasters for a few years, if you say, okay, folks, it's time for elections. How many people trying to get their head down? We have a committee every year at our club. See, Sean's actually run off. He's going, no way am I, right? But we have a committee at our club. There's 4 of us on the executive team, and we start to look at who are new members that we'd like to try to pull into executive roles, knowing they're new, but going, oh man, I can't do that. Yes, you can. And we will help you and we will support you get there. And it really helps your club develop faster. It also means that those of us who have done the role every single year, like how many of you have been on the executive every year? Right? And how many of you have clubs that have other people who have never been on an executive role? Do they know that we'll step up and do it? So they step back and go, I don't have to because I know these people are going to volunteer. Or do we all step back and say, no, this is the year that I stop. Somebody else needs to take my role. And sometimes that's what we have to do. We have to put our foot down and say, I will not do this role going forward. We need to bring in 3 new people. So our club always tries to have 4 current members and 4 new people come into roles so that we aren't always getting fatigued. Bob says, as he's been treasurer for 4 years.
Stop it. You know, the other thing we haven't talked about, and it's on my mind right now, because right now I'm getting everything in place to start promoting the Of the Year Awards, which is awards where we recognize a president, an individual member, an area director, and a division director, and everything will be on the website by the end of this week. That's the other thing that Toastmasters does well, and what brings members in and keeps them, is that recognition of the effort and the service and the commitment and the camaraderie that we have with each other. I just did my farewell speech, and one of the biggest lessons I learned this year was just how humbled I was by the people that stepped up and helped run the district, and the talent around me and the kindness and the commitment. It was just overwhelming. And I saw it more this year than I ever have before. So you take that all the way down to all the district leaders and all the club leaders and all the club members. It's really quite awesome.
And I want to add on to that, Wendy, if you think about this, if you're looking to change roles in your job,
yes,
when people go to hire people, they're looking not only at your skills, They're looking at what you do above and beyond. The more well-rounded you are, and there was a study done by Harvard Business Review, and I know MIT has done this, and there's a lot of other organizations, McKinsey Consulting has done it, that says if two people are of equal skill level, the person that has the soft skills, the better presentation skills, the better soft skills is the one that gets moved forward. And so thinking about that, if you sit down and look at a resume, and a resume is just job description skills, okay, they've got all these skills. And then you look at the next person that's going, oh my gosh, they got an award from Toastmasters for running this, and they got an award for doing this, and they've done all this independent certification. I'm gonna flip this around, okay? That's my wall of shame, as we call it around the house. And why are those things up there? It's because usually my computer is over on the other side when I'm doing business. And I want people who are going to work with me that have never met me before, I want them to see my wall of fame behind me, because it's covered in trophies and plaques from things that I have done in sales and in presentation. So you're looking to hire a presentation skills coach, right? Okay, who do you hire? The guy who's got one line on his resume, or someone who spent 20 years in broadcasting, distinguished Toastmasters, done all these things, has clients that have made it onto things like The View, The Social, The Dragon's Den. These are all things that lead to your credibility. And it's the same thing with you. If you're looking to get ahead in your work or in your career, don't forget to bring those things in and tell people when they're coming as guests, we help you develop not only your presentation skills, but your leadership skills also. So they're really, really important as we're going through there. Okay. So focusing on their pain, one of the things that happens quite a bit is we like to give them a shopping list. And I've seen this a lot of the time where we go, well, let's talk about pathways. It's too soon. All you need to do is Toastmasters provides a structured program, and we're going to take you from A to B. And if you want to study humor, we got a program on humor. If you want to study presentation skills, mentoring, coaching, all sorts of it, we've got lots of different directions you can go on, but it's your path, which is a means to your end. So I'm not going to pull out that brochure because I may overwhelm them with, oh my God, what am I getting into here? Because let's face it, we're not joining Toastmasters to do more work. We're joining Toastmasters to try to get better and take things off our plate. So we can scare people by starting to do that. So even when I talk to people in business, I could tell them my 35-step program to help them sell more, or I can tell them my 3-step program to help them sell more. 1, you hire me. 2, we decide who your best client is. And 3, we look at how to reach out to that client. The 25 steps are things that I have to do behind the scene. Or when they join Pathways and start to log in, there's a few of us that find that very much frustrating. There's a lot to it, but we learn it piece by piece by piece. So don't scare them by giving them everything. Make them feel confident by knowing there's a program, both for presentation skills and leadership skills, and we're going to walk them through that. So I put together this little discussion framework. Again, you're more than happy to send you a copy of it. I'm not going to spend much time here, but we connect and build rapport. Hi there, where are you from? What brought you to Toastmasters? What's this all about? How can we help you? Building trust and developing that trusting relationship. Uncover their problems, build a sense of urgency, and create a sense of anxiety if they don't do something. Briefly tell them about the solution. Provide some stories for testimonials, social proof, and then give them a call to action. Wendy, have you got everything you need to know to join the club? I've got the form filled out, or if it's now virtual meeting, I can email you that form and you can just fill out the rest of the information and we'll get you signed up really, really quick. Number 4 on the list is to address the price, right? Anybody have problems with people coming to Toastmasters going, whatever your monthly or your 6-month fee is too expensive? Doesn't happen very often, does it? I don't know if I've got them in my pocket or not. Nope, I don't. I usually have, when I go to Toastmasters meeting live, I have a loonie and a toonie. And I say, do you know how much a Toastmasters meetings cost? Mine costs $3. Okay. What can you get for $3? And mine's an hour meeting. Some of you probably have 2-hour meetings. So you're going for $1.50 an hour. So sorry, that's good, great math, Bob? You're going for $1 an hour at 3-hour meeting. So thinking about that, it's a matter of, is there a cost that's a problem? And if the cost is a problem, then we need to get them to think a bit about that. And how do we do that? What's the value they receive? If you get a promotion, what's $70 for 6 months? If you're a corporate club, they may be paying it for you, right? If you get a promotion, how much is that going to add to your income? If you're going out job hunting and you're using Toastmasters to help you get a better job, it's not worth $100 or $150 or $200. It could be worth thousands upon thousands of dollars. You can compare it to something else. Well, you know, $70 is a lot of money. Really? How much do you pay a month for your internet? Right? And you get to watch YouTube videos all the time or reruns of Gilligan's Island or something. This is one of my favorite, and I think it was Wendy who actually brought this one up, and I've been using it. This was years ago. Wendy mentioned it one time. A Dale Carnegie course for a weekend is usually about $3,000. And then what do they do at the end of the weekend? They tell you to join Toastmasters to get to practice. Because let's face it, you go to Dale Carnegie, you go in there, you lock yourself down for 2 6 or 7 hour days. They cram everything into you, and then they say, now go out and do it. And if you can't practice, it's really difficult to make it part of your performance. You've got to do that. Break it down. It's less than buying a Tim Hortons coffee, right? And one of my favorites, is cost really a problem? Or are you just afraid to make a commitment to doing this? Get them to act before they move forward. All right. So the fifth one is you as clubs having a system in place so that when a new person comes in, you know it like a tag team. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. So we make sure that this person is surrounded with the right information, nurtured properly to help them make that decision to become a member. You're going to help them determine if it's the right club. And I know this is something that Jen and I have done probably 50 or if not 100 times over the last number of years. We aren't saying we are the right club for you, but we're probably saying there's a right club out there for you. It's a matter of you finding it. So Carol was looking for a French club. Lunchtime Talkers isn't going to help her, but there are a lot of French clubs. When I was in Bangkok a couple of years ago, I went to an English-speaking club in Bangkok because they were trying to learn English. And I walked in. It was one of the most fun times I've ever had in my life. It was absolutely crazy. It was 35 people from Thai people working on their English skills. And this guy from Toronto walks in. And absolutely amazing time. At the end of the night, they made me go out for dinner with them because it was just, we were having so much fun. What a way to get to know people. And I was hearing someone saying that they've attended like 20 or 30 international meetings because we're online now. What are other influences that are impacting on them right now? You know, is it a problem with the time of the club? Is it a problem with the amount of money? Is it a problem with something else? You know, are they serious or are they just going around to meetings? And we get that too. People come to our meetings, but they're already members of other clubs. They're just coming to visit. Well, that's great. We want that to happen. So what did we do? We went from 12 members where we got 12 new members in 6 months. And we did that by making sure that every person that came, we found out their why and then helped them move towards their why. The problem is, how do we keep everybody once we've got them there? So what's your system? Ask if they enjoyed the meeting. Pull at that loose thread. Ask them on a scale of 1 to 10. Send them a series of emails. My rule of sending out emails to guests is you keep sending them until they say yes or they say no. Don't think because you sent 3 emails and they never responded that is a no. That could be, I didn't see the email, I got busy, I forgot, something else came on my way. You keep sending them emails until they say, no, it's not for me, or yeah, you know what, I've got to get this done. I'm more than happy to join the club. Ask them to fill out a survey. Get a feedback form after the meeting. That's another way to get information. Ask to put them on your guest list for the future. We've got a massive long guest list of people who've visited us over the years. And every time we do a special event, we go back to that guest list and pull it out. And it worked perfectly. About 2 weeks ago, somebody we had not seen in 3 years got an invite to an event we're doing, and not only came to the event, but they rejoined the club, right? It's not just new members, it's reactivating former members. And finally, you can ask them what's next. You haven't joined, something's holding you back. Come on, what do we need to do? All right, final Q&A time. Questions?
Bob,
Yep, go ahead, Wendy.
is there a virtual guest package that clubs can use?
They can go into Toastmasters International and download brochures and send them across and create their own guest package. It's very easy to do. Yeah, Jennifer?
Wendy, I can tell you that Whitby Intrepid has a virtual guest package that they've put together. They're very good about their customer
Service. That's what it is.
That's my day job. They're very good about their guest follow-up. So I know they have a virtual package that they've put together.
That'd be very helpful to have.
We have things on our drive and we can share that out. So if we've got a guest, we can give them a link directly to our drive for anything they want there. Other questions? Yep.
One of the things that is beginning to happen is that we are meeting online. At some point, we are thinking we will have the opportunity to meet in person.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, how do you address the fact that things may change in the not too distant future in terms of talking to guests, or do you just not bother talking about it? Because some people really like Zoom meetings, others not so much. And I understand both sides of that argument, but I'm wondering what you do in your club to address that particular question.
We actually had a guest join us from Mississauga for the better part of about 5 months last year. And they had been a Toastmaster. They dropped off, they'd met somebody, came as a guest to our club a couple of times, and they said, well, I'm in Mississauga, can I join your club? And of course, Toastmasters, you can, what's the term we use when they move from one club to the other? Jennifer, help me out here. Sorry?
Transfer.
Thank you. A mental blank on the word transfer, right? So we can reinstate guests, we can transfer guests. So we've been telling people that you can join us virtually, and when we get back to hopefully the library, but we don't even know if our venue will be open when we come back. That is one of our biggest concerns. So in the background, I'm actually talking to people about other places that we might be able to have the club going forward. So if it turns out that they are virtual for your club now, and when you do go back live, they could transfer to a virtual club, because from what I understand now, there are hundreds of clubs that are only virtual. So that's always the option. I also see the question just popped up about why always emails, why not phone calls? I agree 100%. I would rather do a phone call to somebody if I possibly can, because you can get more of a conversation going as opposed to just bouncing back with texts and emails. So I would love to do that. Anybody else question?
I think
Thanks,
the bottom
Wendy.
line
Yep,
is from what I've gotten out of this, and it's, you know, the heart and soul of me is relationship. People will come if they feel part of something.
Yep.
And the training and all the benefits that come with it are all icing on the cake.
Yeah, there's so much to be had there.
It's
Jennifer?
very similar to direct sales because I come from a direct sales background, and it's so similar. It's all about your why. It's all about timing. You know, if a guest comes to your club, we always used to say in direct sales, a no doesn't mean no forever.
Yep.
Right? It's all about timing. It might not be the right time for them to join a club. And that's where your guest list that you mentioned is so key. And I love when you said you leave them on the email list indefinitely. You don't take them off unless they say, take me off. You know, we don't make that decision. If they're not complaining getting the emails, what's the big deal?
For sure.
Because maybe they're just waiting for that opportunity. That's how I started in direct sales.
Yep.
You know, somebody very gently just kind of touched base with me every 6 months. And the next thing you know, I signed up, and that was how it started. But it's very much about the relationship and the why. And as you were saying this, I helped charter a new club recently, and they're so gung-ho on their system and their follow-up. And all I can think about is now I want to go back and tell them, remember, it's about their why, and it has to be tweaked a little bit to each person who comes. It has to be like there's a basic framework, but you want it to be focused on that person.
Yeah.
And you know, and every club has a little bit, it has a different makeup, but you've got all different kinds of people. And that's the beauty of it, is if you have someone who's coming for business, you've got someone in your club who's probably there for business. If you're coming for social, you probably have someone in your club that's there for the social. So everybody in the club helps. It's not just your executive that works on that.
One thing that,
Go ahead, Elton.
one thing too that I find that's really, really important is they have to like you.
Yep.
Now, if they don't like you, you can come up with the best reasons why, you can draw everything out of them. But if they don't like you, they're not joining. So you have to find a way to figure out, how can you get this person to like you, or at least enough where they start smiling, or you feel that they're relaxing with you, in order so that you can take them down that journey. But if they don't like you, they're not going anywhere.
When I went to Lunchtime Talkers 13 years ago, the first time I walked into the meeting, I had been working in corporate Canada for years. For 20 years, I traveled all over North America doing sales training presentations. I was now starting my own company, so I was not doing presentations anymore. And I walked into Lunchtime Talkers in Oshawa in the Armory, the most amazing site or room you could ever have, because it's so historically steeped. And I walked in there and was asked to do a table topics. And I said, sure, I'll do a table topics. And at the end, one of the guys came up to me and he goes, you said you're a broadcaster. No, well, what do you need us for? Like, what are you coming here for?
Ooh.
Yeah, that bluntly. And
Wow.
I was like, wow, talk about making you feel wanted and like, you know, this is great. And some of you would probably know Sherry Sutherland, who was one of the members of our club at the time. She actually helped start one of the clubs down in the government buildings. She came walking up to me as he was walking out, and she said, oh my God, would I ever love to have you in our club? Because I'm sure you could help us with some of the presentation skills, because we want to learn how to use a microphone better. And we want to learn how to do some of these sorts of things. I would have left that club and probably ended up being at another club if she wouldn't have come back. And then a few of them started talking to me afterwards. So they were looking, my why was I was looking for a master class to practice, right? I wasn't going back. I didn't use ums and ahs. I wasn't afraid to speak in public, but I was looking for a master class. So everyone who comes has a different reason. And if it's that speaker that wants to be a coach, that wants to go out and promote their book, or someone wants to just get ahead in work, or they don't want their boss to say they looked or sounded stupid, there's a reason, and that reason is more burning than any reason I can give them. But telling them about the power of it and the story and the leadership side of things, those are all what's going to enhance their reason for joining. Anybody else before we wrap up? Trying to look down here. Okay, so I gave you 5. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Alina, go ahead.
I have a question. Who's supposed to talk to this person? For example, I have invited my English teacher to our Toastmasters meeting last week, and I sent her email and ask her if she would like to attend meeting next week, but I would think maybe somebody from executives can talk to this person. Is it some our executives who have to talk, vice president of education or president of the club or somebody else?
Well, first of all, I think that's a great question because every club should have a process in place and everybody in the club should know it. So if I give you the example of our club right now, the invitation has to come from our president because it's her Zoom meeting. So she and our director of membership and our director of education all have the link that they can send out to anybody. So if I went and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know who, I could email Carolyn, our president, and the person I want to invite as a guest, and then connect the two of them. And then Carolyn will send a link to invite them out. We also plan before the meeting, we'll tell the guest, if you'd like to come 5 or 10 minutes early, we'll have a little bit of a warm-up session so we can talk about what's going to happen in the meeting. And every week we have someone who's in charge of that warm-up session so that if I'm the director of the meeting, oh, there's my apologies. If I'm the director of the meeting or if I'm the chair of the meeting, I don't have time to try to do that as well as talk to a guest, but maybe Bruce is in charge of that. So Bruce is going to actually strike up a conversation with Jennifer and find out her why, what it's all about, get the information. So we really do try to tag team that as much as possible. But VP of membership for sure, president, anybody else, PR person, these are all people that need to be involved in that. We also promote our Zoom meeting on our website, on our Facebook page, so anybody can click on that link and get an invitation to come to our meeting. And any of you that like to come, we meet at noon on Tuesdays. Other question?
Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so just a quick question about, I know we spoke earlier on how a no is not a no forever. And when you're reaching out to guests or previous members that are looking to become interested in the club once again, I've found some experience in that people are interested for a certain amount of time and you follow up with them and then they kind of fall off. And I find it difficult to reach back out and kind of reignite that passion. So I'm just wondering, in your experience, what's the best method for getting them back interested in the club again?
What I do often is I've got what I call my time to close the file email. And it basically says, hey, Sean, you were really interested in joining the club. I know life gets in the way. I know family things kind of happen. If you've decided the time's not right, please let me know and I'll take you off my follow up and harass list, but I will keep you on our list to make you aware of upcoming club events. Rest assured, anytime in the future, if you think that the timing is right, you're welcome to come back again. And so it can be something as simple as that. But until they tell me that, and I think about 75 to 85% of the time, they actually will respond and just say, change jobs, new babies on the way, moved, whatever it was. And that kind of brings them back into line as they're moving forward. All right, I want to be on time, so I want to just quickly get back those 6 steps. Find their why, ask the right questions, tell success stories, address the cost, follow a system, and number 6, ask them to join. Are you ready to get started? When would you like to get started? What's holding you back from get started? If you don't start now, what's going to be different in the future? There's a lot of different ways, but you need to ask them. Never assume that they're just going to say, well, Bob, where's the sign-up sheet? Or here's my credit card, take it right now, Ask them. People want to ask to be joined, to join the club. People want to ask to be part of something. So I'm just going to give you that quick one. Go back to your past members. As I mentioned, we've got that list of every person who's ever visited the club. As long as I've got that database, it probably goes back at least 8 years since I took control of it. So we can go back 8 years anytime we're having an event and invite them to come out to it. So if you want a copy, weese.robert@gmail.com. Since I'm no longer on any executive and I'm not going to give you my treasurer's one that's too difficult. So there's my email address. Send me an email. I will send you a copy of the presentation. And I thank you all for joining. Any last minute question before I turn it back to Elton?
Bob, I do have one question.
Go for it, Tony.
How long do you wait to ask someone to join? Or how quickly can you ask someone to join?
If I'm talking to you at the meeting, during the meeting, and you're like this woman who came out, my boss says I suck, I would put the paperwork right in front of her automatically. And we don't even wait for a signature anymore, because the way contracts work, you need a signed contract, you need payment to make it legal. I'll take the payment first. So here you go. I'm going to send you off a link. Send me the $100 for the first 6 months, and I'll get you signed up. They've sent me the $100. They've already committed. So don't wait. If they're prepared to do it now, do it now. Because if the longer they wait, the more they think about it, the more they go, well, you know, I've been kind of going on this long without it. Maybe I can last another, right? It's like they say in the fitness business, the minute the person walks out of your fitness club, there's like a 99% chance they are never going to sign up for your fitness club. They go home, they sit in front of the TV, and go, oh yeah, I'm just going to watch that episodes of Suits again for the next 6 months, right? I don't need to go. So yeah, get them signed as soon as you can. Thanks, Nigel, for putting that in there. I appreciate that. Mr. Elton, Toastmasters, thank you very much for inviting me to be here and present tonight. Elton, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob, thank you so much for imparting the invaluable information tonight. I hope that everyone was able to gather what they felt they need in order to take virtual guests and turn them into members. Bob has given you his email address if you wish to receive a copy of his PowerPoint presentation that he delivered this evening. I've known Bob for a long time, and if Bob says you guys can have a copy of it, believe me, all you need to do is just send him an email. And with that, I'm going to close this meeting, unless Wendy, if there's something that you would like to impart this evening.
Nope,
Our
it's
fearless
just
leader.
Elton, you're a fearless leader. No, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Bob. I knew it was going to be a great presentation, which is why I wanted to come on so I could learn more about getting guests to become members and gaining membership, especially in these times, these challenging times, is a very big focus for the district. So thank you, everybody. And I hope you learned great information. Thank you, Elton.
Thank you, everybody. I wish
I've already texted Bob for the presentation.
Me too.
Excellent.
Hi.
Bye-bye,
You guys
everybody.
have a good night.
Thank you.